Aaron Wells joins us to talk about the Throwdown at T-Town, taking it to the winner's circle alongside his son Tyler. Plus, a little after 3 o'clock, we'll be joined by Nate Prater to talk all things streetcar bragging rights 2025 going down this weekend at Rockingham Dragway. Boys, let's do this thing. Listen, I've never had any problem expressing my opinions, but what we're doing here is bigger than that. These are conversations that need to be had in an unfiltered way. Drag racing's all I've ever done. It's all I care to do. I respect the history, I appreciate how far we've come, but I want more for this sport, and I'll fight for it. It's uncut, it's unfiltered. This is the show of shows. The biggest names in drag racing. No holds barred. This is the great American motorsport, drag racing. Prove me wrong. I'll wait. Hey gang, Westbuck here, Drag Illustrated Magazine, checking in. It is Wednesday, May 14th, 2025. Hope you're doing well out there. As always, thank you for joining us and being a part of this conversation. We really, truly believe that open dialogue and public discourse and chatting about all these things and highlighting the superstars and rock stars of our sport is so, so important to our mission of growing and building the sport of drag racing. Plus, we're trying to get our Drag Illustrated YouTube channel to 100,000 subscribers in 2025. So click that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell so you get notified every time we go live or post a new piece of content. Man, we have a great show lined up for you today in just a few short minutes. Fresh off a big win at the Throwdown at T-Town, the Midwest Drag Racing Series event this past weekend at Tulsa Raceway Park, Osage Casino, Tulsa Raceway Park in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The one and only Aaron Wells. We're going to talk about what was an incredibly memorable weekend for not only the series, that event, but the Wells family. Then a little bit after the hour, we're going to check in with Nate Prater as he prepares. I believe he will be checking in live on the scene at Rockingham Dragway as they get ready for streetcar bragging rights. And we've, of course, got a ton of news happening in the sport of drag racing that we're going to cover. But before we get too far along, let me introduce my co-host here on the Westbuck Show, JT Hudson. What's up, buddy?
What's up?
Are you about ready for Maycember to be over?
Man, it's been a wild one.
Isn't this a wild time of
graduating, and so every project that I put off around the house for the last 3 or 4 years needs to be done, you know, so we can have this little party. I'm like, yeah, she didn't have.
Well, knowing you, it will not be a little party.
This one's going to be a little party, little one. Yeah, I mean, she's got like 6 places she can entertain out there, but it's the one place where I don't have done that she has to do it, right? So
yeah, that's typically how those honeydew lists
I'm
go.
feeling
like, hey, look at all this stuff I've already got done, sweetheart.
Can you believe that?
You have allergies?
Mike has allergies.
Oh,
yeah.
Carpenter?
He's stealing my excuse. That's
my excuse. Why he's not here?
Yeah. He's got like, he sneezes like 200 times in a row. We said,
oh my God. We're going to have, I'm going to send the whole squad to a boot camp or something. We're going to all go to like Navy SEAL
I
training.
know I'm going to have my allergies. Like
your allergies, it's hungover is actually what you probably feel.
See, I work when I'm sick so that I can use those kind of days.
I mean, it gets you off the hook, right?
I mean, if you're gonna be sick, you might as well be working.
Yeah, true. I mean, you know, the biggest issue I have, and I actually had to tell my therapist this, is that I love my work. I love it.
So you got a therapist,
bro? It's 2025, and your boy's not well. All right, you know what I mean? Like,
I think probably.
Bro, I've got a performance coach.
Yeah,
I got a therapist.
Named JT.
I've obviously married for a decade, so I've got Alicia as well in my ear. Yeah, man, I'm a big, you know me, I'm a personal development guy. I'm always trying to improve and get better and learn. And yeah, man, that was one of the issues that I've had is that I love what we do so much that I never really feel like I'm working. Like I'm just doing what I like to do anyways and talk about drag racing and cook up ideas and whatnot. The hardest thing is like separating, like I find myself like I'll go mow the yard because I just want to go like do manly stuff or embark on a landscaping project because I want to do something where I'm like getting my hands dirty. Because, you know, running a keyboard and talking on the phone is it doesn't quite fan that animalistic flame, if you know what I'm saying.
Bone-in wing or a rib.
No, I don't eat food with bones in it. It's just it feels counterintuitive. Like, again, it's 2025, and like if we were cavemen, I would probably be forced to eat meat on the bone. But here in this modern time we're living in, JT,
in a restaurant, I would.
What'd you say?
I'd pick up a tomahawk steak and eat it right off the bone in a nice restaurant.
I've seen you do it. I believe it was at the Palm in Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace that I watched you literally grab like 20 or 32 ounce.
That waiter dared me though.
Oh yeah, he did dare you.
That's different.
Yeah. And you can't turn down a dare, right?
No. Nope.
You can't turn down a dare. We got a great crowd today. Let us know where you're checking in from. I always love to see where people are tuning in from. We get viewers from Switzerland and all over Europe and even the Middle East and whatnot, throughout Australia. Love to hear from you guys. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Also, let us know where you're going racing this weekend. I see DSP Mark, the pouring seats for the world homeboy that we actually just helped put together a website for. And Jim Parks, fresh off a big win they had this past weekend, racing Top Alcohol Dragster. How about the I guess I have to remind myself that there's been a little bit of a rebrand take place. I'd love to know a little bit. Did you follow along with the debut event of the Outlaw 32, the kind of reincarnation of No Prep Kings that took place this past weekend at Famoso, JT?
I didn't that much. I was just busy all weekend. I was kind of keeping track of Jimmy Dale and Poland in that group with the little gangsters.
Man, but like 60 cars they had show up for Little Gangsters all the way out there on the West Coast. I think we were all kind of waiting with bated breath to see how it would work, right? Like the class is so strong here in the DFW area and kind of in the Southeast. I can see it really working well. We've clearly demonstrated that it can do well in Florida, but I didn't know that out West is a whole new animal. When you get well out west of the Mississippi River, things change. And I was blown away by
so many people though, man. I mean, like, you can go run that class. I mean, there's so many cars that you could bring in to run that class and have a good time doing it.
And have fun, and you're not, running your stuff hard enough. I mean, obviously some of the cars are running wide, balls out to go 530, but a whole lot of them are cars that have been in the 4-second zone or whatever. But kind of slow them down to race Little Gangsters, which for those that don't know, Little Gangsters is essentially an index category. It's a 530 breakout deal on a pro tree with a chip draw and no times shown. So it throws a little wrench in the gear for the hardcore bracket racers that are really good at cutting a light and knowing what their car is going to run. But no, really incredible performance, showing of support, really. And it was honestly really cool to see Nate Saylor take the win. Nate Saylor and Scott Taylor going head to head in the final. Scott Taylor, he's a veteran of the Drag Illustrated Winter Series, unveiled a brand new car that Craig Cook, editor at large here at Drag Illustrated, is working on a feature story about right now. The car, I didn't know this, I guess, is a tribute to Scott Taylor's father. And I just love stories like that. And we're going to get into a little bit of that with Aaron Wells here in just a few short minutes. But no, really, really cool weekend for those guys. I spoke briefly with some of the higher ups at Speed Promotions Racing, and by all accounts, a successful weekend. We heard rumblings that merch sales for the racers were through the roof, like on par with, some of the most successful events in the history of No Prep Kings, which is always encouraging to hear. Racers making money always makes me, my heart pitter patter a little bit. And, we also just some great racing, man. I was really surprised with all the momentum Kai Kelly and Sean Ellington, Murder Nova, had from the Winter Series heading into this deal. I really thought they'd go out there and steamroll guys who hadn't been racing as frequently, but they didn't have too good of a weekend. But I'm anxious to see how they rebound in the coming weeks. There was a little bit
of drama, wasn't there, between Kai and Nate?
I don't know all the details on that. I certainly saw the video.
A little bit. I'm not sure what all went down there.
Must be a bet. There must have been a bet that perhaps was agreed on. I don't know. We'll get to the bottom of that in the coming weeks. What up, Jacob McNeil? Congratulations on a hell of a weekend. Jacob McNeil made his debut in Pro Modified behind the wheel of John Stouffer's CUDA, tuned by Scott Palmer and company. And man, oh man, did they make a statement in their first weekend out. We can talk to Aaron a little bit about that as well, because really cool to see a fresh face in the Midwest Drag Racing Series. One of the things that really stuck out to me going into the weekend was that Bob Glenn was there. Bob Glenn, Florida-based pro modified racer, a regular on the NMCA Extreme Pro Mod Tour. He made the tow up to Tulsa, ran really well. I mean, he was definitely one of the cars to beat. He was in the conversation, and it was looking like things were going to go his way until he fell, I believe, in the second round on a big hole shot to Mr. Aaron Wells. And anyways, rough way to go out for those guys, but what a showing. I mean, definitely showed that these Roots cars can run well. I believe that Bob has the only Roots car that's qualified at a Winter Series event this year, and really impressive program that they've got going on right now. So anyways, it was cool to see like some fresh faces and be reminded of that the Midwest has really stood the test of time. If that's one of the things, I mean, especially with some of the news that's happening right now and everybody putting on races, that's a big part of this is what's the word? Demonstrating a little bit of patience and playing the long game. Keith Haney, Ellen Eschenbacher, everybody involved with the Midwest Drag Racing Series have committed the time and energy for years now to get the series where it's at. And I think it's in a really good place by all accounts. I think that they've got a good thing going. Also, I talked to Haney on Monday morning, first thing bright and early. He called me and he said, the place was packed. And I love to hear that. Anytime I can see door slammers racing in front of big ass crowds. We talked about this a little bit last week, JT.
Say that if there was only 3 people in the stands.
What?
Keith would say that even if there was 3 people in the stands.
Well, yeah, that's actually 100% accurate. But there was a hell of a crowd there, and I was really happy for Keith. I mean, I was happy for all these racers because, again, so many problems are solved by people in the stands. I mean, almost all the issues that you have with racers and different things and scheduling things and, oh, there was too much time between rounds, or, oh, we ran really late or whatever. All these things that kind of typically bubble to the surface, you pour cold water on that when the place is packed, because everybody wants to put on a show or perform in front of a capacity crowd. And I was just really glad to see another one of these events that are pro mod centric.
Let's bring Aaron on.
Yeah, let's do it. It's ladies and gentlemen, fresh off a big win in Tulsa, the one, the only Aaron Wells.
What's up, Aaron?
What's going on, Aaron, man? Thanks for joining us, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward. I've been looking forward to this for been racing for about 25 years. So
we've been doing this show for damn near a decade, so it's long overdue, man. I appreciate you joining us, and again, congratulations, man. I was going over the race results from the weekend, and just you've got to be happy with this Darren Mayer tuned hot rod, and just to come out, you know, it's still relatively early in the season. What are we, a couple of races into the Midwest Drag Racing Series season, and to have a weekend like this, I mean, kind of take us through it, if you will, and just your overall feeling on the performance.
Well, I've been racing with Darren. It's kind of a cool deal. We race a little different than a lot of teams do. Mine's driven by family, and when Darren started with me, as a matter of fact, I tell a story all the time. He was more in tune with visiting with my son, who's now 16, when he was just like, I don't know, a year old. And he sat there and visited with my son more than he did with me about race cars. But car's running really, really strong. He's doing an excellent job. He and his guys, got to give a lot of credit to Darren and Dan. And then obviously we've been trying some new things this year. We knew that a mid-60, Mark Mickey proved this point, a mid-60 wasn't going to win. Even a high 60 wasn't going to win in this caliber of racers. And so we've been doing our best to try to work through some, of the new technology. And so stuck a new converter in and got a little bit lost. And thank goodness that Darren said, I know just the guy to call. And he visited with, basically a couple people, but Mark Savage is one of them. And Mark's a super smart guy and has his feet under him, and he steered us back in the right direction. Man, when the car came alive, even I was surprised in the car when the scoreboard lit up. So, but I mean,
So
that's
you're specifically talking there about round 2, I believe, right? When that bad boy went 368 at what, 205, and you could even tell watching from afar, Aaron, that it was like you guys were kind of creeping up on it, getting comfortable, and then went 371 in qualifying. Got, obviously in the field, all those things, but you could see it from afar that like, oh boy, these guys are pouring the coals to it now.
As soon as it started coming alive and coming around, we started getting the feet under us, and Darren started leaning on it. We started getting it, a little bit happier. But I mean, to line up next, well, really anybody that I lined up. I got Costa the first round. Robert Costa being back was excellent. Great to see him back, and obviously has a great team that's making that car quick and faster every single lap. But Bob Glenn, I mean, gosh, what a cool matchup anyway to get to race him. And Ron, Jeff knows how to run race cars better than anybody probably. So seeing him out there and lined up against him, and to have that lineup, it wasn't like we had to fight for it. We didn't get any any easy hands dealt. So it was fun. I had a good time. And then of course you even mentioned it, Jacob McNeil. I mean, how cool is it? Scott Palmer and John Stouffer back at it, and what an awesome final round. I mean, there's nobody you can take light, but they're one of them. They're going to be tough to beat.
And it's kind of like also like if you had to create like a microcosm of Pro Mod, 70 CUDA with a factory paint job on it, and you've kind of got the Eleanor-ish looking 67 Mustang, big motor sticking out the hood. It's like, okay, this is how Pro Modified is supposed to look. Like, I know we're kind of in this moment in time, and my dear friend Brett Kepner, a longtime drag racing historian, is always reminding me that, like, there was a point in time when everyone had a 63 Corvette. There was a point in time when everybody had a 68 Camaro. There was a point in time when everybody had, and so I don't get too worried about, the fans that seem to be up in arms about so many late model Camaros showing up in Pro Modified, especially when we got cars like that consistently making it to final rounds. I mean, you're a former Midwest Drag Racing Series world champion. So, I mean, it's clearly possible to run good with these nostalgia bodies. I'm curious, do you guys, any sort of affinity, and forgive my ignorance on this, but any sort of affinity for Fords? I mean, I noticed that Tyler's behind the wheel of a Camaro. So are you guys like my family? I would be murdered by the Buck family if I was in a Mustang. But do you guys Chevy guys at heart, or you're not super brand specific?
We haven't been. I've always had Camaros. I started in a street car that was a 69 Camaro that my dad and I built in the garage, or rebuilt in the garage, so like all of a sudden we decided to have a car built by Bickle, and it was like my dream car. I always wanted a 60, long before even the movie came out. That was the car I always dreamed of having. And so that's why my buddy Al Tucci always called it not Eleanor, because the first time he saw it was, oh, it's Eleanor. And I said, no. He goes, well, what do you call it? And I said, well, not Eleanor. So he said, until you come up with a name, I'm calling it not Eleanor. So
I like not Eleanor. That works.
Keep saying that, can't you?
Yeah.
So here, the car's 9 years old, and obviously it's held up really, really well. And but it needed some body work, and the paint was starting to look kind of rough. And we try to keep our stuff as nice as possible. We got really nice parts and pieces, and don't want it to be an eyesore either. So we repainted the car, and to a little bit of credit from my dad, who passed away in January of 24, we painted it green, bullet green. It's a 2019 bullet green. And so
is that a factory Ford color?
It is, yeah. And I drove around to try to find one for the longest, just to see if I even liked it, because some of the Bullet Mustang greens aren't exactly the most desirable, especially from the movie cars, because they look like beat up crap sometimes. Yeah. But nonetheless, that was kind of the direction we decided to go. So
I really like it, man. I mean, honestly, on the live stream, I hardly noticed that it was so dramatically different. But like looking at the Winter Circle photos and stuff, that old girl is a gorgeous green. It's nice to see something different too, right? Like that's JT's favorite phrase of all time, something different. But I mean, you do see so many hot rod red, or you know what I mean? Like it's so kind of rinse and repeat out here, and it's nice to see something different. And I always like those. Like whenever I did my Corvette, it was similar. I wanted it to have a factory color. Like I'm like, what was offered in 1981 that matches the interior that's in the car? And there was like 3 options, like a crappy purplish maroon, or 2 options actually, and bright frost metallic. So bright frost metallic, we went because there is something cool about a race car having some of those factory styling cues, in my opinion.
It is, but I remember the old days of Scotty Cannon wild paint and Ashley, and you know, that was. Mike Ashley's Mustang was like the coolest car to me ever because it was the 67 Mustang. But yeah, I also did a little bit of, I'm not superstitious at all. You know, obviously everybody or a lot of people believe that green is a bad luck. And I just proved that wrong right off the bat, you know, so I'll live with that. But yeah, I'm not superstitious for that. And
I tell you what, man, and another good looking Mustang is Bob Wells' car. And I am like the most anti-blue guy in the world. I'm just never been a blue car guy. I think it's probably from my days of buying and selling cars and flipping them. We would always jokingly call blue like no sell blue. Man, hard to sell a car that's blue, you know? And, but that thing is as good looking of a hot rod as there is in the country right now. And would you kind of touch on, it seems like we've got around the country right now, there's kind of a rule set that seems to be working really well. We've got a ton of cars. It's almost unbelievable how many cars in the country can run in the 360s at all, which is just mind blowing. But I mean, what do you make of just kind of the overall lay of the land right now? I mean, there are, probably literally over 100 pro mods in North America right now that have been 369 or quicker.
Isn't that cool? I mean, it's unbelievable, you know. And well, I'm from the early days of no rules, you know. It was the best racing there was. I mean, it was cool to have no rules, complete outlaw, just wild as hell, and just stupid. I mean, just stupid fast. Unfortunately, for guys like me who, you know, I'm sitting in my office, I'm working. Work gets in the way of racing, of course, but you know, for us to be able to go out there and race competitively on more of a level playing field, you know, I've got a car that's 9 years old, and to make a super ultra lightweight car, I don't know, you know, from my perspective, I don't know, a 9-year is a term limit for ultra lightweight cars. So to be able to build a class like Midwest and PDRA and whatnot, to be able to put together rule packages that the car still can go fast and still have a good time, I love it. I mean, would I love to see ADRO no rules again? Maybe, yeah, but it just doesn't work in all scenarios. And just as you described, think about all those cars that's been in the 60s, you know, well, Winter Series. I mean, it's phenomenal how many cars there are that are extremely competitive in all scenarios. So, yeah.
I mean, it's really, and again, I think I get a lot of people be like, man, what is your deal with pro mod? You are drunk on this pro mod stuff. But it's like, no, man, I'm a drag racing fan at my core, but I'm also a business person, you know, and I know what it takes to grow a business, and that's inventory, you know. And when you look at our sport right now, there's no stronger inventory of high level cars than what exists in pro modified. And so like when I thought about planning our flag and what are we going to do to contribute to the sport of drag racing and leave a lasting legacy and make an impact, pro modified was just the obvious answer in my eyes. And to your point, I enjoyed those days too. Those were the beginning days of Drag Illustrated. It was kind of funny, for damn near a decade, Drag Illustrated and the American Drag Racing League kind of grew parallel to one another. You know, the bigger it got, the bigger our business got, and vice versa. And a lot of their stars were the people we were focused on, and we attended all their events, and we were, you know, intimately involved with a lot of things that went on, especially early on. But you could see the writing on the wall fairly quickly when it came to Pro Extreme. Is that, to your earlier point, which I stand behind. I mean, if you look at the past several winners of the World Series of Pro Mod or any of our Drag Illustrated Winter Series winners, these are not these are not brand new builds. And that kind of the ADRL Pro Nitrous and Pro Extreme era ushered in this age of almost disposable race cars. Yep. I mean, I knew guys that wouldn't even get but a full season out of a car before they were selling it to a top Sportsman guy or selling it off to be quick 8 raced or what have you. And a lot of that is, I mean, they're so light. Whenever you start, I mean, you're going to lose some structural integrity. I mean, you're just going to, and you start shaking the freaking quarter panels off these things, breaking X braces in the middle of the car. I mean, there's just so many nuances to it that I just don't think it's sustainable long term. I mean, and then, I remember when Brandon Snyder was setting all the records kind of towards the end of Pro Extreme and the PDRA, it was like, I mean, he was telling me how much money he was just spending on blower belts each weekend.
Yeah.
Sustainable deal for what is by and large a group of working class people. I always tell folks that Pro Modified really represents the highest level of grassroots drag racing.
Yeah. Hey, be quiet there. Don't be telling anybody how much money I'm going through. My wife probably is watching this, so you just.
That's why you race in a legal category, Aaron. You're barely. I mean, I bet you didn't spend $50 this last weekend.
Probably not. Maybe I bought a corn dog at the concession.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever it took to fill up the motorhome, the cooler, and whatnot. That was it. Right. That was it. Tell me what it's like working with Darren Mayer. You said, I mean, this guy is something of a religious figure in our space in many regards. Respected, widely known, works on hot rods around the world. I'd love you mentioned hanging out with his son, but like, how did that relationship come to be? And like, what has been the catalyst to keep you guys in lockstep for damn near a decade? So
he started, he flew in to just help line a car out in my early days. And, honestly, it was a scenario where we thought he was just going to be there for one race. And he came in and like I said, he kind of hit it off with my son, who was only a year old, maybe because they're a little bit alike in a lot of ways, but they, even to today, are still friends, and he loves my kids as much as I do. So it's kind of, he likes racing with us, I think, because we're kind of just a family oriented deal that just, while I am extremely competitive, I want to win all the time. My priorities are still my kids and our family and us doing it as friends. I've developed friendships out of this deal that will last forever. And unfortunately, a lot of people miss those opportunities, but I've got Darren, who just turned into a lifelong friend, and I appreciate his eagerness to still race with me while there's bigger and better opportunities for him to go and race with teams that are way more competitive than me. He still hangs around with me. For what reason, I don't know. But same with Mark. Mark Savage, is brilliant when it comes to making cars go fast, and he proves that a lot. So for him to even, a friendship to start there and build on, I appreciate that. And but I've got crew of 3 or 4 guys that have been with me for a long time. 2 of them are, one's a flight medic, one's a paramedic, and they started coming around the race car shop and just never left. So they just kind of turned into family, and obviously the rest is history. So
it's funny how that happens, right? One of 2 things can happen. They come and they never leave, or they come and they never come back.
Yeah,
because that's what my dad and I was experience all the time. We'd have somebody come in, Buck Brothers. They'd be like, "Hey, you guys going racing this weekend?" "Yeah, we're going to South Dakota or wherever." "I want to come with you. You want to?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, hop in. You can ride along with us, no problem." And by the time the first day at the track was over and we got the awning out and the car up on Pro Jacks and everything set up, they were ready to go home, and they just weren't sure that they were going to come back.
I told everybody Sunday morning, I guess it was, after the race, I am the most exhausted I've ever been, at least in the top 5. And we had 4 cars. We had 2 juniors. Darren's daughter was driving one of my juniors. My daughter was in the junior, and then Tyler was in the top Sportsman car, and then obviously the Pro Mod. And by the time we were ready to pack up, we were absolutely so worn out. It was just like we had pulled the converter. We were trying some new parts and pieces and swapping stuff around. We had a little bit of a problem with the rear end. We were on red line, and I'm making them scrape and, save every drop. That stuff's still good. And you can run it a million times. I'm like, stick it back in there, stick it back in there. So save everything you can. And otherwise it goes all over the mat and everything else. But nonetheless, I was like, hey, listen, you guys, you earned this win, not me, because they worked their absolute butts off. We were exhausted, but it was worth every minute of it. So.
No, it was an amazing thing to see. And that's a fantastic segue talking about Tyler and Darren's relationship. But watching the video, and I should have had JT pull it up. You may be able to find it. I'll text you the link during the next script read, JT. But the final round, seeing Tyler up there, and you guys had like the classic Donald Long army of people up on the starting line. And when that win light came on, the emotion on display on the starting line, I mean, I guess take us through. I mean, Tyler's been around the sport obviously a long time, and I'm sure has had aspirations, but you guys took the leap to put him as a 16-year-old young man. I don't want to take anything away from him and call him a kid, but I mean, I know how I was when I was 16 years old.
Wild that is a kid. So
I mean, this is absolutely insane to throw him into the shark-infested waters that is Top Sportsman. There's probably few tougher classes in the country right now, especially with another class somewhat like Pro Mod, where there's just tons of really good racers and tons of really good cars. Tyler jumped in what I believe to be your old Pro Mod style Camaro, yep, and went to the final round and ultimately scored the win. I mean, just how did this kind of idea come to life? Was this a plan that had been in place for a little while, Aaron, or what got to this moment?
Well, so when I started in Pro Mod, we bought a car that was built by Montana Brothers, and it is an extremely easy car to drive, just because it's so well built and it runs really well. Has a 632 in it, and obviously it's freshened up from when I ran it, but we decided to stick him in it just because we were looking for a street car, and instead of buying another car for him to race for maybe 6 months, we decided we'd just slow the car down and stick him in this one. But he's been racing since he was 5 years old, and for NHRA to allow kids to start at 5 years old, it takes a special kid anyway, but one that understands and has a respect for it. And he respects his dragster and the ability of staying focused mentally as well as preparing the car. I said, if you're willing to work on the car, anytime the car's worked on, you're working on it with me. I won't work on it. You're maintaining it. You're doing everything. And this is a good opportunity for him to learn everything he needs to know to be able to race on his own. But this was just kind of a in the past year transition, if you will, that we decided it was time for him to start learning or start getting the car ready. And this happened to be the car that seemed the most practical. Honestly, we even had a conversation, there's a lot of people here. There's going to be a lot of stress. Don't be disappointed if you go first round and out first round. Let's get some seat time. We did a lot of testing prior to the race, but he drew Daryl Reed for first round. I mean, what kind of that's a tough draw anyway, but even all the way through, he had like Michael Chitty and Seacrest and Todd. So the whole thing, he had, a pretty tough lineup in Top Sportsman. And, he held his composure. We had some motor problems where it was trying to die on him, and he kept it running. I think, as a matter of fact, it died 4 times. But yet he still held it together. And so he proved himself even to me, shocked even me, and I'll be the first to admit that I knew he's going to do well. I just didn't know he'd be that good. So.
I tell you, man, I remember I tell this story about Lizzie Musey. God rest her soul. We miss her out here. But I told Pat this. We were in Rockingham for a PDR, or was it ADR? PDRA, ADRL, whatever, doesn't matter. But I was watching along, and I was there on the starting line, and they were having a similar issue where the car wouldn't idle. Right. And the place got a pretty good crowd. There's people everywhere. You've got all these legends walking around and all these big name drivers. And I was so impressed with her ability to keep her composure in that moment. And I'm sure that was, and it kind of was in that moment the car went at idle, Pat's in there yelling at her and, you know, grabbing the throttle and revving it up with his hand and all these things. And I'm like, if she even gets out of the water box, it will be a victory.
Yeah.
And not only did she get out of the water box, she did her normal burnout, backed up, calm, collected, did well. And I think that you're right. Those are the moments that really kind of tell you if you're cut out for this or not.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people that are driving that have no business driving. And for much like her, you know, they've got, you know, I guess, not saying that I've set a pedestal for him, but honestly, people look at him and expect that, you know, good results out of him because he's my son. But honestly, he's made his own path already. And that's pretty remarkable because he's able to get in that car and keep that all together and compartmentalize. I said that wrong, but
yeah.
You know, just the fans. And
it's really what it is. I mean, especially because the Throwdown is like a notoriously well-attended race. I mean, the place is packed out. They get this huge crowd. And for him to, you know, be able to hold it all together throughout 4 rounds of racing is really, really, really impressive.
Just so we're clear, he's my son, not my wife's. So I'm pretty proud of it. I'm a little partial, I will admit. He's both kids, both my daughter and my son are good racers, and so they're my kids.
Well, I thought about trying to have him on the show, but I figured he'd probably be in school.
He is in finals week right now. Actually, he's got some big projects that, you know, the terms and conditions for his racing is he has to keep his grades up and stay on top of it. And he's really good at that, but he's been focused on that. Yeah, he was like, "Are you going to come get me out of school? Because I'm only a mile from his school, my office is." He's like, "I'll come. I'll go back."
Well, I don't want to put this much pressure on Aaron the first time he's on the show. Like, hey, go get your kid. I don't know where he's at, but, you know, and I knew that it's that time of year. We were talking about it in the opening that it's like May. My wife calls it May-cember. There's just so many things going on. It's like Mother's Day, graduations, the end of the school year, all these things happening that it's hard to stay on top of it. But we'll make that a reality in the very near future. Tell me just a little bit about, you mentioned how important it is to you to keep your racing team rooted in family values and doing it together. And it's something that you guys do as a group. I can't imagine. We actually are lucky enough to have just talked to Kurt Stedding last week, you know, who just had a similar experience at the PDRA Mid-Atlantic Showdown, winning Pro Boost while his son took home the win in Pro 10-5. I can't really imagine. Like, it would have been great if he went out and qualified, right? I'm sure you would have been satisfied, won a round. But for you to win and simultaneously him win, I can't imagine what that experience was like. I mean, what was the reaction from those guys that have been with you forever, and yourself and your wife and everybody involved?
So my mom, with the exception of a little bit of time, has never missed a race. Never. Wow. She had a back surgery, so she was forced to not attend. But she was there, and all of our friends and family, because I'm only about an hour and a half from Tulsa. Oklahoma City's home. And so we had a tremendous crowd. And so, like you said, they were all standing up there behind the car. But it was, you know, honestly, I was so shocked at first round. I was even more shocked at second round. And, you know, for him to take home the win was pretty remarkable. I mean, it's kind of special anyway. To do it in my old car that my dad and I enjoyed so much. We won some local championships here in Oklahoma with it back when I was driving it. So it was a pretty special moment. I mean, I got to be honest with you. That may have been, even over the championship, over some of we raced the NHRA Midwest race, even over that win. I think this one probably will be one that I don't think I can ever top. It was that. I mean,
I do. I was just going to say, like, it's like, where do you go from here? Because that is a dream scenario. I mean, it's a Hollywood movie script. A
16-year-old thinks that this is the way that racing's always going to be. I'm like, bud, this is it. I mean, honestly, the next race is going to be difficult to exceed this one, but yeah,
it is, because it will probably likely be a challenge. Like, the next race may actually be a bigger challenge in that, you know, making sure that he's, I mean, emotionally mature enough to take the other side of this, which is you know, one of the biggest kind of shocks for me of the 2025 drag racing season thus far was Ken Cartuccio not qualifying at the NHRA race in Charlotte. And I mean, this guy, we just announced him as the pound for pound pro mod #1 guy in the world. He wins the Snowbird Outlaw wins the U.S. Street Nationals, wins the Winter Series Championship, crushes everybody in Radial versus the World competition. He has just been a world beater, but it just shows you how fickle this sport really is. I mean, you can get lost chasing something or have some sort of issue that you didn't even know you had.
Absolutely.
Cost you an entire weekend. So I'm sure that will be the next stop on the Midwest tour. I mean, so let me ask that. What is kind of the plan for Tyler? Race as much as you can, participate in the, I mean, it sounds like it was a big bite to be running 4 cars, but is that the plan for the rest of the season?
So my daughter's a softball player, so she only hits and misses as she can around softball schedule. But we're going to continue the Midwest schedule. One of my good friends that helped rebuild the car, rewire the car, Travis Cannon, he jumped in the car for the first race because Tyler wasn't obviously old enough. He turned 16 the Sunday after the race. And so to be able to qualify for the points, just to get the base entry points, he jumped in the car, and I appreciate that. But yeah, he's in it for the long haul for this year. We're going to try to hit as much. He would race every day if I let him. I mean, it's just, he's got that 16-year-old energy that I do not have, nor do I have time for with 5 businesses. But we're going to try to do our best to hit as much as possible, and just continue to speed the car up, maybe even dabble into the 420 class that Midwest put together. Dave Pierce has really worked hard on that. We like that.
He really has.
And I think the car really will fit that well. We would love to be able to go over East Coast and run some of that 632 races because those are so awesome as well. But
and I think that's the 632 deal really intrigues me. It's been on my radar for a long time. I was super excited about it when the PDRA introduced it. I'd seen it kind of happening in Florida. There was a handful of tracks that had like some local outlaw 632 races that were doing well, and it was a really diverse group of cars. Like you'd have a all steel back half car racing a full tube chassis car. You'd have some old pro stock cars, that single frame rail pro stock cars that they put a 632 and a power glide in, and they were out dabbling in it. Nitrous cars, naturally aspirated cars. Johnny Placino ran really well with a naturally aspirated car. Tony Gillig ran really well with a naturally aspirated car. So I think that class, I don't know what it's going to take, but it's close. Like the 420/Pro 632 deal, drag racing, I feel pro modified kind of needs that feeder category. When I look at Top Fuel Funny Car, I've always felt like one of the biggest issues was there's not really an organic stepping stone. I mean, alcohol racing in some regards, I think will prepare you to some extent, but it's still just such a drastically different deal to go nitro racing that you don't see a lot of people kind of cross the chasm there. Right. Yeah. I mean, they kind of stay in their lane until the end of their career. And I look at pro modified and I go, we need a class that we can, kind of like a junior pro mod type of thing where we can introduce people and develop some stars and get some people used to racing in these environments in front of big crowds, et cetera, so that there is a clear stepping stone where they could maybe even take the same car and put a bigger motor in it. You know what I mean? Make a couple of changes and go do battle with the big dogs. So I'm glad that you got your eye on that, because I think that'd be a great place to see him end up here the next few years.
I want to, I don't want to hold him back, but there is no room for him to just jump into a pro mod, and the Mustang for that matter. I want him to learn and grow and learn how to feel that tire shake and everything else. And so this is a good progressive step, and the 420 class is a great. Dave Pierce, and I didn't pick up on it, but Dave kept telling me, hey, 420, 420, 420. Well, I kept on thinking he was referring to Tyler running 420. Hell, he was talking about me jumping in the 420, so Tyler moved over to the pro mod maybe. I don't know, but Tyler,
not yet, Dave. Not yet. No, Dave called me I think it was a couple of years ago now. We were talking, I remember it vividly. I've known the Pierce family literally since probably 2001-ish or so, when we would cross paths relatively frequently down at Ozark International Raceway in Rogersville, Missouri, during their big outlaw pro mod events and outlaw door slammer events. And he's a great guy. And when he called me and asked me about this whole deal and, you know, promoting it and trying to garner some interest in it, we did a story on it, a handful of other things. But his passion for it and enthusiasm for it and his belief in it will really be the determining factor. I point to that all the time. Like, if you look across our sport, the things that are strong, the classes that are strong, typically have someone waving the flag, whether it's Chris Graves with Nostalgia Funny Cars, or Donald Long with Radial Tire Cars, or me, Keith Haney, Tyler Crossnow, and, you know, everybody else with Pro Modified, and it on down the list it goes. It's a very important part of this, is to have someone that is championing what you're trying to do and a cheerleader for the class day in and day out. And I think it'll take a little bit of time, but I really see 420 and or a melding of the 420 and Pro 632 thing being something that could be sustainable for the long term. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I am too. I think it'll be a fun class for Tyler to run, and then maybe one day when he gets in my car, long from now, Tyler. But but you know, I stepping into that 420 class, still fast cars and really good racing. I'm going to let him beat up on the old guys for a while until I have to be the old guy that gets the little punks like him to beat up on me. So, but
it's just so funny. Like, do you ever think about, like, 420, like, we brush it off. Like, whenever I was a track manager in 2005, the track pro mod record at Eddyville Raceway Park in Iowa was a 410. You know, like, this, I mean, how far this has come in a relatively short amount of time, and how desensitized we have kind of become to how fast these cars are. I try to remind us, you know, anybody that I talk to, is it's like, just because we see it a lot doesn't really detract from how absolutely insane it is that we have 25, 6, 700 pound cars accelerating from 0 to 210 in 3.6 seconds. And there are literally, I was actually talking to Kepner the other night, and he told me that, like, in our top 8, I believe, I mean, there are over 100 cars that have been faster than 375, I think.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, that's just absolutely bonkers. You know what I mean? Like, the top 16 cars in the world have been quicker than 353.
Yeah.
You know, when in the no rules kind of configuration. So it's just, it's absolutely insane. And 420 is definitely nothing to sneeze at. It's nothing to bat your eyes at. It's a very impressive thing, man. Last thing, Aaron, and we'll let you go, and we surely appreciate your time on a busy Wednesday afternoon. But I wonder if you had plans this winter. You know, man, tell you what, there's just it just seems fitting that a former Midwest Drag Racing Series world champion with a show quality pro mod, man, I don't know, man, you may need to start circling some dates on your calendar and staying close with your mailbox, because you may be looking for a letter in there here shortly.
I've been leaving those dates wide open just in case. So
I'll be glad to hear it, brother.
I'll be
glad to hear it.
That's a letter for sure.
Well, hey, stay tuned. Keep checking the mail, man, because we're leveling up a bunch of things this year. We're going to do some cool stuff with how we kind of roll out some of this stuff, and we would love to have you join our family down in Florida, dude. So thank you for joining us. Seriously, Aaron, it's been long overdue, and I appreciate your time. I know you got tons of stuff going on, but we appreciate it, and we certainly congratulate you, and we can't wait to see what's the next stop on the Midwest tour. I was just looking.
Martin, Michigan, actually.
Martin, Michigan. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah. Shakedown, right? Yeah, the Shakedown at M-Town. I'll be there. So I'll see you in a couple of weeks, all right? I look forward to seeing you up at Jason Peterson's place, US 131, for the Shakedown at M-Town. Hang out and tell stories with Haney, and come over and hang out with you and the fam, all right?
Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan, man. We appreciate you, Aaron. Take care. Hey, gang, I better take a second here and remind you that each and every one of the Wes Buck Show episodes are made possible by way of our friends at Stroud Safety. Stroud Safety is known for their top quality racing safety equipment, from drag chutes and seatbelts to fire suits and blankets, all 100% made in America. Log on to StroudSafety.com today and make sure you tell them we sent you. JT, I think we're kind of like we're rocking and rolling, right? We're right
Yeah,
on
give us
time.
shit, man.
Is this correct? I see a certain someone in the green room. It looks like he's got a professional level backdrop. He's got the branded shirt
Does,
on,
man.
and
Look
he's
at
looking to death. I don't know, man. Let's give it up for the one and only Nate Prater, staring down the barrel of the 2025 running of the Streetcar Bragging Rights event.
Let's take a look at this background real quick. I mean, like,
Yeah,
come on. That's nice.
Looking good, brother. Well, hey, man, I know you're in the throes of it. We won't keep you too long, but I just feel like it was massively important. This event, knowing your story the way that we do and seeing what you've turned this deal into. I mean, honestly, I got to ask, like, how does it feel? I mean, the buzz on social media is palpable. People are talking about this event. I know your ticket sales are through the roof. Your entries for the race, as far as competitors are concerned, absolutely incredible. I mean, how's Nate feeling on Wednesday afternoon about 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time?
We're tired, but no, it's awesome, man. We knew last year at Streetcar Bragging Rights 24 that we really needed to pull something off, and we knew if we could, it was going to be a really good turning point for us for this year. And that started proving really quickly back in November, October of last year with sponsors coming on board. We were able to quadruple the amount of sponsors we have in the last few years, a lot of returning sponsors, a lot of new ones, a lot of big names in the industry. Really quickly, back December 1st, whenever our tickets went on sale, we pretty much matched our overall ticket sales from last year on day one of ticket sales. So there's been a lot of buzz since the start.
There's no doubt, man. I mean, that logo on the backdrop there, Freedom Plus. What's it been like working with Cletus, Garrett Mitchell, and Josh Dowda and the whole gang at Freedom Plus? I'm sure you're excited about that. More than likely introduce your brand to some new eyeballs.
Absolutely. Yeah, this year, you know, we made a hard push to get on with Freedom Plus. Luckily, it was a very last minute deal, but we were able to pull the trigger a few months ago. Johnny Mill runs, you know, all of that on the side for Garrett, and he's been awesome to work with. They're out here now. I'm actually looking down the track, and they're out here setting up. They've been out here since last night, getting ready to go for this.
I'm excited for it, man. It's so take us through kind of the lay of the land, if you will. I was looking at the website this morning and just kind of going over different categories. But, you know, if you could, you know, maybe drop some names of some hitters that you know are attending and your marquee categories with your outlaw streetcar classes, etc.
Yeah, for sure. So we're actually running 17 race classes total this year, which is a huge step above anything we've done in the past, especially considering our first year event was a single day and it was 5 race classes total. We're going to be starting off with one of my favorite classes, honestly. It's our streetcar index class. And this is probably still our one and only class that we will continue to always run because anybody can get in this. You don't have to have a $100,000 race program. You can come out with your tow vehicle, in all honesty, and run in this class. This year, we really kind of stepped it up. We have rented Rockingham Speedway across the street for Friday morning. So the class itself consists of 128 cars. It's sold out about 3 months ago, and they're going to actually have a 30-minute cruise along the high banks of Rockingham Speedway Friday morning. If they don't pass the cruise, they can't run in their class. So the way that one works, it's kind of a bracket index hybrid. They can dial in their own time, but it has to be in half-second intervals. So quarter mile, 7.0, 7.5, 8.0, 9.0, 9.5. That one will be really kind of what kicks us off. And then we've got our 2 no-time classes. It's our only 2 eighth mile classes that we run. That'll be Friday night. We've got our no-time small tire class and our no-time overdrive class. And, I mean, we've got Kevin Mullins out here. We got Justin Swanstrom. We got Todd. We've got big list of names for, you know, our no-time small tire class. Overdrive, we honestly have some of the fastest overdrive cars in the entire nation out here for it. That's Friday night. And then getting into Saturday, we're going to be running a total of 10 additional classes. And those are all going to be our heads up classes. We've got one that's honestly probably sticking out more than anybody right now is probably our stick shift class. We have 50 stick shift cars signed up that are going to be trying to get into 32 spots, and they are the fastest stick shift cars in the world.
I think that I'm personally excited about those 2 categories that you just mentioned, overdrive and stick shift. Tell me, what was the catalyst behind the overdrive class? I mean, that's just something I don't know that I've heard it identified as that. I mean, as a kid who grew up with a 700 R4 and his daily driver, I've always been, I've had an affinity for overdrive transmissions and street cars that can still be driven on the highway. So like, what was the catalyst for that, Nate?
We definitely run it a little different than most. Southeast part of the country, you know, obviously we could be recognized as the grudge capital of the world around here.
Sure.
But with that being said, no time overdrive stuff, new age, you know, modern cars, 05, you know, 15 and up Mustangs, stuff like that. It sells out classes on Thursday nights. I mean, it's something that has gotten extremely popular. A lot of guys run it with typically like a 1 power adder foot brake style. Ours is extremely open. It's open to all years. It's open to turbos, trans brakes, all that kind of stuff. That's not something that's very common, but we try to keep our rules for a lot of our classes pretty broad, so we can just kind of get in the fastest of the fast for these.
Well, I mean, and it's also, I mean, I think that's actually a pretty smart. I had a promoter tell me a long time ago when I was first getting involved in drag racing, you know, professionally, that every rule you write in the book is a car that's not coming, you know, and there's so much truth to that in this day and age where there's so much racing going on. It makes a lot of sense to try to open it up, especially as you guys have kind of, I mean, we've talked in recent weeks, and I'd love to get your opinion on this. Mike Carpenter, one of our co-hosts here, we've been talking that it seems like we're kind of in the age of the independent event. There was a time when the drag racing world was clamoring for touring series. I think there's a lot of contributing factors that we could dive into. I mean, in their wide ranging, right? Just the cost of competition and the price tag associated with all this, but just gas prices, airfare, hotels, all these things have skyrocketed. So do you agree with that we're kind of in the era of big one-off type of events that people circle on the calendar and build their year around?
Oh, absolutely. No, I mean, as a promoter, you know, I think, and you know this just as much as I do, one of the first things you do whenever you're setting out for your event a year out is it's looking at the calendar. It's looking at every other race event out there. And, you know, obviously I'm very new to this. We don't have a ton of experience at it, but it's difficult. There is so much stuff going on. There's so many one-off events that are huge. I mean, you know, we've got a race going on this weekend, a few hours away from here. We've got next week, we've got, you know, the $75,000 small tire race. You know, these are things you would typically try to stay months away from. And you just don't have the choice anymore. I mean, it's just, there's huge events. You know, we will try to support as many as we can, especially in this area. But, you know, I can't imagine as a racer, you know, getting drugged to whatever one, trying to plan your calendar out after that.
It's absolutely insane, man. I mean, I think about how many like significant happenings are going on in the sport of drag racing at any given time, and it's hard to keep up with it. And I mean, we do this for a living. We do it all day, every day. And it's like, there's so many races going on. Like I'll get a call from a pro like, hey, you coming? Well, it's like, dude, there's 10 races going on this weekend. No, I can't make it. And you really can't fault anybody at this point in time, right? Because as you said, there's only 52 weekends.
Yeah. So you can try to work with everybody as much as possible. And I think, you know, everybody wants to do the respectful thing of trying to, at the minimum, you know, not have a race that's similar to another race that's close by. But I mean, it's impossible at this point. Like I said, I mean, I tell people all the time, there's 52 weekends of the year. And not all tracks can operate those 52 weekends. And everybody, especially, you know, on the East Coast where you can drive 2 hours, get to a track, drive another 2 hours, get to a track. There's events everywhere, and they're getting more popular. They're getting bigger. Like you said, the one-off events they're taking precedent, in my opinion.
I agree, man. I think we're in the, you know, and it's tough to identify like exactly who to like give credit to, but I can point to some that really had influence on me as I think about the World Street Nationals in Orlando, Florida, Orlando Speed World and the U.S. Street Nationals. It was similar in regards to your event in that it was pretty wide open rule book. You saw cars from all these different parts of the country show up at one place to do battle and kind of see who's who for the ultimate bragging rights. I think lights lights out. Donald Long's big production in Valdosta, Georgia, serves a similar role where it became something of a destination. People would make a week out of it, right? I think the NMCA and NMRA actually deserve some credit with the spring break shootout, and their different events that they had where it was really geared towards an entertainment venue, more so than just a drag race. I'm curious, one of the things that I've always been massively impressed with by you, Nate, is your penchant for pomp and circumstance. I don't know if you live inside of my head, but every time I see you do something, I go, this is exactly how it should be done, whether it's fireworks or, even the rave reviews I got from Mike Carpenter when he came back from your Burnout for Kids event. He's like, dude, I showed up and this guy's got stages built and all this stuff everywhere, flags and banners and signs and all this craziness. Where does that come from? I mean, are you just a student of the game, Nate, or do you draw inspiration from other walks of the motorsports life, or what's that rooted in?
I definitely don't want to say that we try to copy anybody, but I mean, I'll tell you, we attend events all the time. I try to go to as many of them as possible, from small scale events to coming down to World Series, FL2K, a lot of stuff that goes on in Branson. I mean, we pick and choose things. We say, okay, he did that well. This guy did this well. What can we do, or can we take something like that and improve it? I'll be completely honest with you. I take pictures and they go into a folder in my phone that is my planning folder. And I'll tell you right now, last time I was at World Series of Pro Mod, you had printed maps all over the place at a drag strip, and most people know their way around, obviously. And that became in my phone and became one of the things. And right now out here at this drag strip of Rockingham, we have, I think, 8 physical large maps, that we pulled from World Series of Pro Mod, because it was something that was, we saw that looked great. It was something that made sense. Nobody else was doing it, so we incorporated it in ours. As far as fireworks go, I love fire. There's not a whole lot about it. I was definitely the kid that whenever I had a little bit of money in my pocket, I wanted to go to the fireworks store. When my birthday is also New Year's Eve, so that might have something to do with it there. My birthday's always been, centered around fireworks and partying and stuff like that. But, we really try to just elevate everything that we're doing. That goes back to, there's so many drag races throughout the year. What can we do to kind of separate ourselves from them? And I think drag racing as a whole lacks a lot of the show aspect. And I think, we've got people that are doing that extremely well, like Garrett. He's doing stuff that is more than just racing. It is a show, and we're trying to pull from that. We obviously don't want drag racing, what we're doing, to become the sideshow, but there's more things that we can do to get people in the gates. And if it's a fireworks show on a Saturday night that, the town buzzes about because they don't get many fireworks shows, or
so be it.
And I'm never going to put on an event that we don't have fireworks. If I can't have a fireworks show, then we just won't have a race.
I love that, Nate, and I applaud you for it. And it's funny because your story about the maps, it resonates with me, because I do that all the time. And it's it's funny because there's actually there's a documentary that you should watch, and it's called Everything is a Remix. And it basically just talks about how, in a time with billions of people on the planet and hundreds of years of recorded history, thousands of years of recorded history, an original idea, they're pretty few and far between, right? Madonna, Lady Gaga is a modern version of Madonna, right? I mean, we've seen these things done.
Yeah, none of us are reinventing the stone here.
You know what I mean? It's and so I take great pride in that. I mean, I have attended, I actually stole the map and a lot of our signage ideas for not only the pro race that we did last year, but World Series and the Winter Series, from IndyCar. I went to the IndyCar Music City Grand Prix in Nashville, Tennessee last September, and I guess it's been 2 Septembers ago now, excuse me. But I went and I did the same thing. I just took photos of every single thing that I saw that I felt was meaningful, whether that was how they had the catering in their suites, whether that was how they had banners put up, the different things. And we try to implement those because it's just lessons learned, right? I mean, it's just you're learning from these other people that have been doing it for a long time. And a lot of times when you go to those type of events, they also have scale and resources that we just don't have, right? So you
that's
gotta, like,
the big one there. We're definitely constantly elevating stuff, but I'm reminded of it by everybody around me that, hey, you might want to slow down a little bit. You don't have the funds for that this time around. But I live my shop back home in Augusta, Georgia. I live 5-minute drive to the Augusta National. I grew up around literally the most prestigious golf course in the entirety of the world. And one thing that our town as a whole and that city does and the Augusta National does better than anybody in the world is hospitality. It's unmatched, and stuff like that, being able to go out to that course, be around hospitality houses, growing up throughout my life, you see these things. And, obviously we're coming out to older drag strips and stuff like that. We don't have pristine grass, growing everywhere, but it's like, how can we elevate this area? What can we do to bring that to what we're doing now?
I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, and that's really what it is. I was having this conversation with someone the other night and just talking about ticket sales and the challenge that is, and how difficult it actually is to sell tickets. I mean, it's a really tough business to be in. I mean, and it's a very doable business, but it's also like, it takes damn near constant effort to really sell a meaningful number of tickets, like the type of tickets that are going to set you up for sustained success, right? To be able to endure a rain out or a rough weekend or what have you. And we were just talking about comparing drag racing to, modern sports properties. Like, you go to the American Airlines Center to watch a Dallas Mavericks game, and I mean, if you go to the restroom, they've got a TV above the toilet. You don't miss, above the urinal. You don't miss a second. I mean, the sound is better in the bathroom than it is in the arena. And you start thinking about the expectation of the consumer in 2025. And drag racing is going to have to find ways to elevate. And again, to your point, I mean, we deal with that at Bradenton Motorsports Park. I mean, everybody's heard me say it 10,000 times that it's a honky tonk. And that's why the event happens there, because I think drag racing plays well at honky tonks. But you still have to have like certain amenities that, I mean, it's mandatory at this point in time. You've got to have decent bathrooms. You got to have some decent food. You got to have, some other entertainment going on beyond the racing. You got to have all these signage and security and all these things that kind of go with a modern event. And we're going to need to kind of see the entire sport, continue to ratchet up to meet the expectations of consumers in 2025.
I absolutely agree. I mean, like you said, we're going to venues that are multi-billion-dollar venues at this point. That, yeah, I mean, people go to football games and basketball games and baseball games at this point. The hospitality is so well that they'll sit in the concourse and not even watch the game just to be there. I mean, so it's how do we at least try to get to match that, to get on par with that, like you said, to have the expectations for the consumer of what other people are doing, what these major league, baseball games, football games, everything is.
Yeah. And being willing to try some crazy stuff. I mean, you're out in that part of the country. I mean, I think about, the Savannah Bananas and what that has turned into. But, they, in order to achieve that, they had to break some rules. You know what I mean? They had to do some things that are way different.
Some people off, and it was
100%. And sometimes you got to ruffle some feathers.
Baseball is, if people aren't a big baseball fan, baseball is hard in with a lot of tradition and the way it's played, and it's like tennis. You just don't do certain things. So it was huge for them to kind of bring a guy in that walks on 6-foot stilts. And I mean, what they're doing at this point, I mean, they're selling out major league stadiums, they're selling out football stadiums, they're selling out baseball stadiums. And I mean, people are enjoying the show aspect of not just another game, not just being another drag race.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to get to go see baseball, but it's going to be baseball with a modern kind of edge to it, right? A little out there. But that's what people really want. And I think it kind of leads me to the next point. And I was going to touch on this as we closed out the show. And I know you've got a lot going on, so we won't keep you too long, Nate. I appreciate your time. But the other part of this is the pace of these events. Baseball is another one that has had challenges with keeping their events paced correctly and keeping the action moving. I mean, they introduced the pitch count and all pitch counter and all these things, their version of the NBA shot clock or the basketball shot clock, if you will. And I see that happening in drag racing because in this day and age, man, people they have other plans. I mean, there was a time not that terribly long ago where if you were doing something on Saturday, you were doing one thing. But now people are going to hit the drag race, and then they're going to go for dinner with their friends, and then they're going to take their kids to a program or whatever. People have multiple plans throughout the course of a day. And I think that that's one of the things that our sport's going to have to embrace. Now, it's a huge challenge because of, I mean, your event is a great example. 17 classes. There's no way to do that in 2 hours. But there are ways to create pockets of action that are specifically identified as the main event, or what you want to see, or what you can't.
Yeah, I mean, we're battling viewer retention. Absolutely. You know, we live in a TikTok world where, you know, we're scrolling through Facebook reels that if they go more than 30 seconds, we're skipping past them. And, you know, we deal
100%.
We deal with drag racing, which, you know, is prone to accidents, unfortunately. You know, outside venues where we can't run with bad weather. We've got to find ways to have retention of people. I mean, we do. Obviously, I've got tons of plans in the future. A lot of people know this is no hidden secret. 10 years from now, we're going to have hot tubs lining a racetrack somewhere. You know, we're going to have cabanas, you know, and I don't care what it costs, but we're going to do it. But we do everything that we can now, you know, and we call it tractor time. You know, when the tractors are going out there, we got to bring the t-shirt cannons out. We've got to have, you know, people doing something. We've got to get people involved whenever they're just sitting around. Like, when is the next race happening?
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny because if you read, I'm drawing blank on his name right now, but the owner of the Savannah Bananas wrote a book called Fan First. And he talks about opening weekend, their first game that they ever had under him and his wife's ownership of the Savannah Bananas. It poured rain. They had all these grandiose plans, all these things they were going to do, but it pours rain. And he said, everybody on our team, which was relatively small at that time, are looking at the ground and kicking rocks, and everybody's frustrated and disappointed. And he thought to himself, this is actually an opportunity. It's an opportunity to prove to ourselves and to the world that we can entertain these people, even if we're not playing baseball. He goes, so like, while we're trying to cover up, you know, the baseball field to keep it from being destroyed by the weather, we got, you know, our players are out there on slip and slides. We're throwing stuff out we're doing races with fans.
It's actually really funny. We went to our first Savannah Bananas game last year, me and my girlfriend Ashlyn, and
I've never been.
Unfortunately, it was a complete rain out. But they let us all in. You know, they knew it was going to be. It was pouring raining. And the one thing the Savannah Bananas does that's absolutely insane is all their concessions are free. You know, it comes with the ticket, your food, your drink. So they let all these people in. They let everybody eat. They let everybody drink. And they entertained us for 3 hours while it was pouring down raining. They knew they were going to call it the game. I mean, it was never even a doubt. But they made sure that everybody that traveled the distance that they did, that came there for that ticket that night, they didn't just go home completely empty-handed. We have not actually been back. They gave us a rain ticket. We have not been back to a game yet. But, you know, we traveled 2.5 hours to get down there. And I'm sure people were traveling from all over the world for that game. It was worth it. You know,
isn't that amazing? I mean, that's
every single, yeah.
That's the dream, Nate. Like, that's the dream, is to be able, and like, that is an aspiration of mine where I would love for some, you know, obviously I never want to contend with weather. We did contend with weather for the first time as a series in 2025, and we had some weather during the US Street Nationals, but you know, and those are tough things, and it's always going to be a part of our sport. But I want to be able to get to a point someday where even if racing got rained out, people still felt like they got their money's worth. You know what I mean? Because being there and all the other things that were going on, of course, it wasn't what it would have been if we were drag racing, or what it would have been if you guys got to see the Savannah Bananas play. But you don't have some sort of bad taste in your mouth based on that experience. You're willing to come back and eager to come back. We'll get there, man. It's a process, but it's going to take forward thinkers such as yourself to get there, man. And we're just really proud of you. Give us the rundown where everybody can follow along this weekend. I know streetcarbragginrights.com, May 15th, 16th, 17th, Rockingham Dragway. You've got to be excited to go to one of the most iconic and legendary facilities in the history of drag racing. Where else do people need to be tuned into?
Definitely FRDM Plus. You know, we're going to be streaming starting. We're not going to be streaming tomorrow. We have, you know, so if you want to come out and spectate, we've got testing today. We have 97 cars teched in on Wednesday for Saturday racing.
Wow.
It's wild. We have a little over 500 cars registered as a whole. So definitely check out the action on FRDM Plus. You can follow, our socials. We have Streetcar Bragging Rights on Facebook, Streetcar Bragging Rights on Instagram. Before I go, I just want to say I get a ton of credit for all this stuff, and as awesome as all is, I really want to give a shout out to our team. We have our group of people that come out for this race have been really the same group of people that have been doing this with me side by side for the last 3 or 4 years. They get absolutely no credit when it's said and done. But my girlfriend Ashlyn, my sister Jessica, she's sitting here right beside me. All my friends from back home, they come and they do this for free. They literally don't. This is their vacation, and they bust their asses all week long. And I'm typically the only one that gets the glory for it. But I want to make sure that they get a shout out for it, because we could not do this without them.
From your mouths to God's ears, man. I mean, these all the people that it takes. We've had this conversation that it takes an army. It takes a village of people that are swimming in the same direction, that share a vision, share a common goal, and you can surely see it from afar. Even from afar, you can tell when that's what's taking place, man. And tell your better half hello, and your sister hello. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Congratulations, Nate. We hope you guys have a badass weekend. We got a couple of that I believe are going to be there, and maybe one video guy. So anyways, keep us posted, and good luck this weekend. Stay safe.
Sounds good, man. We'll see y'all.
Thanks, brother. All right, guys, I want to take a quick minute to remind you that each and every episode of the Wes Buck Show is made possible by way of our friends at Redline Synthetic Oils. Redline has a reputation with racers and hardcore enthusiasts for creating products that protect and perform better than any on the market, and they've been doing it since 1979. Whether it's your race car, your tow rig, your motorcycle, or your lawnmower, when you think about lubricants, you need to think about Redline. For more information, log on to redlineoil.com. JT, I'm not sure if you caught it there, but we got a little bit of an unofficial endorsement there from Aaron Wells about Redline Oil. He was telling his crew, don't spill any of that stuff. We can reuse it. It can be used again. Don't lose any of the fluid on the ground. But that just goes to show you the pride people take in running Redline Oil, man. But great conversations today, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. I don't know if you want to hit on it, but, there is some things going on with the IHRA as well. The President's Cup was canceled. Which hasn't actually been really released by the IHRA, but and then also the 5-race series was announced first, which
there's a lot to touch on, and I've been getting a lot of messages about it. I wish the IHRA nothing but success. I've said this 10,000 times, and I'll say it again here now, that drag racing, in my experience, has almost always been better when the IHRA was strong. I think back to the early days at Drag Illustrated coming on 20 years ago, and there was a real magic to having, the NHRA, the IHRA, and then, of course, the advent of all these premier 8th mile drag racing sanctions and series. But I think the NHRA is better when the IHRA was strong, and there was some high water marks. There was some days where I really thought things were headed in the right direction. Late 2000s come to mind when Scott Gardner was at the helm. I really felt like Scott was at least headed in the right direction. Then the brand changed hands multiple times, and here we are in 2025. It was big news late last week that the IHRA announced a 5-race national event tour with national events in Columbus, Ohio, Milan, Michigan, West Salem, Ohio, and Dunn, North Carolina, of course, Galat Motorsports Park, which was recently announced that they had purchased, and a massive 17 class lineup, everything from Top Fuel to snowmobile and everything in between, it would seem. And definitely some curious things on here. Mountain Motor Pro Stock and 500-inch Pro Stock being contested, I think is, definitely a little bit of a surprise. Pro Modified and Pro Nitrous. That one is also curious to me as well. I don't
see how that would work, but
Pro Mod is not really Pro Mod if it's not including nitrous. I mean, it's so I'm anxious to see how they're going to do that. It was, to me, what they're attempting to do is run Pro Boost and Pro Nitrous, which I think would be more accurate, probably, because you're more than likely not going to get any nitrous cars that opt to race in the pro mod field when they could race against like competition in pro nitrous. So, I think it's really yet to be seen
either. Yeah,
no,
right?
There's not a rule book yet, which is, another thing that I think is going to be interesting to see kind of what rules they decide to run. Being that this is branded as the IHRA Outlaw Nitro Series, I'm wondering how heavily they will lean into Outlaw, if it will be a true no rules type of situation like we see at Clyde Scott's events at Extreme Raceway Park, or this past weekend with Bubba Stanton, Mark Mickey, Frankie Taylor, and a host of others doing battle at Flying H drag strip in a literal no holds barred type of environment. I'm anxious to see how that works out, but this is a big bite. That's all I'll say is, and I know that, I'm a believer that success loves speed. I've said that a lot. I'm big on moving fast, but at the same time, I am. This is my calculations on this is the purse for a single event is about $860,000. JT, I ran a spreadsheet just based on the purse because I track all this stuff, and so you're talking about basically $5 million over the course of 5 races, and I get
staff or
that's with no staff, that's with no marketing, no setup.
Breaking news as well. As of Monday, as of this Monday, FN3 Raleigh Miller, Ram Incorporated, TVC, and Kurt Johnson are not associated or contracted by or involved with the IHRA events in any way now. So, they just keep getting blow after blow after blow. I hate to talk about it, but it is what it is. It's just one thing after another. I just don't know how this leads to success over time with the turnover rate that we're seeing. At some point you got to go, what the fuck's going on? I do think that a clear vision is going to be important. I think at some point in time to be established.
And, if we're being frank, and I know you challenged me at the beginning of the show to be frank, but I also just, I really get worried about what is a limited resource of world-class racers, as we mentioned with Aaron earlier in the show. And drag racing definitely doesn't need division right now. And some of the biggest issues that I saw were just in schedule overlaps. We've got one of these races happening the week after the NHRA US Nationals. We got one of them happening right on top of the NHRA Sonoma event. There's a host of other conflicts, or kind of close calls, if you will. And if you start looking at August and September, there's like 6-7 pro mod races going on that time of year that I think it's going to be really tough for all of them to be successful, and I'm a big picture guy. I'm a long-term sustainability guy. And I know that, the amount of sponsorship and ticket sales that it will take to support this level of purse is, I don't know. Obviously all the conversations have been had about the resources that are available to this group, and that's an incredible thing.
And that's fine. That's fine. But nobody wants to throw light money on fire. Nobody. I don't give a fuck who you are. Nobody wants to.
Especially when you start thinking about the seating capacity at some of these venues. No doubt about it, Columbus National Trail is the biggest venue that they're going to go to, and you're still talking about like a 12 to 14,000 person venue. Some of these tracks like Killcare, where they're going to have, I guess, 125,000 to win pro mod race. That track seats like 1,500 people.
Just got that too.
And so you've got, best case scenario. You'd have to sell it out 10 times over to come out on that deal. And I understand that everybody, money's no object, and that's wonderful, but I don't know that that's like a long-term success strategy, right? It's going to be very interesting is all I can say. And, there's been
that many classes.
And we've seen like this exit, we saw, huge news. Rich Schaefer comes on as president. Within a few short weeks or a month, he's no longer involved. Christian Bird comes on. He's doing interviews with Competition Plus and putting out all these grandiose plans. The next thing you know, he exits. Alan Reinhart, You know, that was big news that he wasn't going to renew his contract with the NHRA and he was going to take his, you know, services to the IHRA, and then he exited as well. So there are some things that I think I'm still waiting to see who's going to be the face of this brand. As I just described, you know, with Aaron Wells, I think that the brand, especially in this day and age, we're in a new era. Like, love him or hate him, Roger Goodell, you know, he has embraced that role. You know what I mean? He's the front man of the band for the NFL. He walks out there and gets booed by everybody at the draft. He, you know, all these things, but he does it. And he recognizes that it's par for the course. I look at Dana White in the UFC. I look at Adam Silver with the NBA. I mean, Adam Silver is probably one of the most like beloved figures in stick and ball sports. And he is constantly in front of cameras, constantly doing media days, constantly communicating with the masses, writing letters to fans, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I really think that that's what it takes. And I don't know. I hope that this isn't too much too soon, JT. You know, too much too soon.
There's just no plan. You know, I mean, we're seeing some of this stuff unfold, and it's just kind of all over the place. And I don't know. I don't know what to think of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, there needs to be someone that comes out and says, "This is what we're doing. You know, this is why it makes sense. This is why we're doing it." You know, I mean, every sporting organization or sanctioning body, or they've got a clear plan of what they're working on, right?
And if they don't, they need one.
Right. Well, I mean, do you know of any successful one that doesn't?
No. You know, I mean, and I look at this, and the other part of it is you start to create some expectations that may not be sustainable, right? I mean, you start paying $50,000 to win Pro Mod, you know, 5 times a year. I mean, that's going to put a lot of pressure on the Midwest and on the PDRA and on NHRA and these other places who do not have endless resources and are reliant on entry fees and sponsorship dollars. And it really starts to muddy the waters a little bit, which is probably my biggest concern about it right now. I don't think drag racing's ever been in a better place than it is in 2025. And I don't want to see anything potentially detract from that. You know, Mountain Motor Pro Stock is probably one of the, you know, primary examples that I'll give is we saw the introduction of a secondary series splinter the car count. We saw, you know, PDRA Extreme Pro Stock be as healthy as it had been in years. The NHRA announces a 6 or 8 race Mountain Motor Pro Stock exhibition, and all of a sudden what was once a healthy class is now kind of light in both places because there's not enough inventory, as I speak about all the time, for them both to be successful. Now we've got a third player in the mix, and so now we're going to take that same group of racers that was already fractured and splintered, a low inventory class, and we're going to spread it across 3 sanctions and series. And there are some harsh realities is that these guys and gals just cannot go to all the races, right? Especially when some of them are back to back or within a couple of weeks of one another. It's a really, really, really interesting dynamic that
it's pulling a lot of the lower level cars. I mean, let's face it. I mean, at first, that's probably what you're going to do because you've got commitments to other places, especially for this year, right? I mean, you're going into the year, you made your plans already by now for the most part. And when you pull the lower level cars, probably not as good at parts, programs probably not put together quite as well. That creates more oil downs, more chance for
I mean,
disaster.
and with 17 classes, JT, you're looking at a 15, 16-hour day, best case scenario. I mean, you're going to be racing from sun up till way past sundown, no matter what. If you were to have even remotely close to full fields.
Does that mean no 2-for-1 drinks at Applebee's? Like, we're not.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to get 2-for-1 drinks at Applebee's because you're going to still be at the track. So it's a really, really interesting situation. And like I said, I think that there are probably really good intentions here. I think there's probably, grandiose, great intentions here. But it's a little fast and loose for me right now. I'm anxious to see kind of how it all unfolds. And I know there are some guys that are just chomping at the bit for this to be, the reincarnation of the IHRA of old. But I'll still go back. I mean, even when IHRA had what was probably one of their best, not best, but even in the Winston days, the Hooters days, then the Evan Knoll Torco Race Fuel days. I mean, that deal was one very much sponsor and sponsorship dependent, and it was very much racer entry fee dependent. And you're talking about raising, I don't know, a couple $100,000 to try to offset a nearly $1 million purse per event. That's going to be a big bite. And you're also, like, to your earlier point, JT, you start to bring in some sponsors, and you have a lot of, cars that maybe quite aren't raced regularly, don't race often, maybe don't have the manpower or the equipment necessary to run, to do what they're trying to do. That's not going to lend itself to a sponsorship friendly environment, because to what Nate were just talking about, fans, I mean, we experienced that at the World Series of Pro Mod. Obviously I'm going to sound like an arrogant, biased prick when I say this, but the 2025 running of the World Series of Pro Mod was probably one of the greatest drag races that have ever happened in the history of our sport, which is 100 years old. I mean, side-by-side competition, fast-paced, etc. And despite that, we still have people leave after first round. You know what I mean? Like, we had a decent crowd come time for the final, but most people had been there for 8 or 10 hours. They're ready to go home. And, it was funny because I had to have this conversation with a handful of our team members that only work with us during events. They're like, hey, man, people are pouring out of here. And I was like, yeah, but none of them are asking for their money back. They're stoked. They came out, they got to watch a couple of hours of drag racing, chug a couple of beers, whatever, with their buddies, and they left, and they're totally satisfied. They're totally happy.
You have your replacement fans too, right? Like your
you
day
do.
fans. Day fans are leaving. The guys getting off work, they're coming.
This is such an interesting, nuanced business, and it's a tough thing, because you're going to have to build into this some sort of 2 to 3 hour window that is your thrill show or your big show. And if you don't have that, and it's just going to be the smattering of classes, because it also flies in the face of a lot of what Christian Bird was saying in his interview with Bobby Bennett on Competition Plus was their plan. Their plan was to be really entertainment driven and bring in some, side shows and music and this, that, and the other, create something of a festival vibe. But then we see a schedule that's got 17 eliminators on it. And
that's a marathon. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. It's very interesting, man. Burn from Kun. Why should today be different than any other Wednesday, Wes? Ouch. He's talking about me being an arrogant prick. And I'm not at all, but I am proud of what, and it's not me.
You have your moments.
I have my moments, but like, the fact of the matter is that was a great race. I mean, and it's not really a reflection of me. It's a it's a reflection of the best drag racers on the planet Earth, certified badasses, 85 strong. And when you've got strength in numbers like that, and everybody's got world-class equipment, you can put on, a barn burner of a drag race. But when you don't have that, it becomes a real challenge. And I'm really proud of the group of people that we've got around us and supporting us. And I'm going to keep pouring the fuel on it and shining a light on them and bragging on them until the end of time.
And that includes the tech department and the other classes as well, because to get those other classes done with good equipment and get down through there. I mean, we even had little gangsters there, and got them all down the track, so we could run pro mods. So it goes out to everybody that was at the event, really.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, even our fans are world class. You know what I mean? So it's everybody that is involved in this deal is absolutely the best at what they do, in my opinion. And that's what it takes. And I think that's, kind of the next battles they're going to fight is, track prep is certainly something that has to be, taken very seriously. Technical stuff. I mean, especially when you start, I'm telling you, when you start running cars that go 300 miles per hour, just the safety aspect of it is, there's a funny thing that I want to tell people that I think is something that you need, that promoters have to grasp, is that when you start getting, 4, 5, 6, 7,000 people on the property of an event, 10,000, you basically have a small town, right? And you've got to be prepared.
5 of my small towns.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to be prepared for everything that's going to happen at a small town. Right. That means kids wrecking bicycles, shit getting stolen, people having babies, all sorts of stuff. When you get 5 to 10,000 people on the property in one place, you have to be very well prepared for the things that are going to happen, in La Plata, Missouri on any given Saturday night, right? Which means DWIs, which means fights, which means all these things, right? And being prepared for those moments is a big challenge. It's a tremendous amount of work, and it takes a serious infrastructure and team of people to pull it off. But like I said, to kind of bookend the IHRA conversation, I do think that, I want to see racers racing for as much money as possible, as often as possible. Right. I think that it's fantastic to see purses skewing, the right direction and seeing racers run for more money. I know there's some
right here, though. Mayberry can turn into the south side of Chicago real quick. Yeah,
it really can. I mean, that's a great, I mean, there's no better way to put it. I mean, and we experienced that ourselves. I mean, on Saturday at the World Series of Pro Mod, we had never dealt, but it was also the biggest crowd we'd ever had. And we had never dealt with that level of just calamities. We had a concussion. We had a kid choke on something. We had a cancer victim that probably shouldn't have been at the racetrack, but was there anyway, have a heat stroke. We had a lady blow her knee out. We had, a bad dirt bike crash. We had, we had a couple of fender benders in the pits. I mean,
you're doing it there with a corn dog in the stand.
Yes. I mean, that was the night before, but I mean, literally Saturday morning before first round of eliminations, I had been in an ambulance more than I'd ever been in my entire life in 3 hours before we started the first round of eliminations. And those are kind of the things, those are the curveballs, that you don't really go into planning for, right?
You acting like a doctor on there?
Well, at one point I was definitely acting at least like an EMT. On Friday night, I definitely did a little EMT acting. I had no business doing it, but I didn't know what else to do but try to help. So
some cargo pants for the next race.
You know what I'm going to do is wear scrubs.
Oh, yeah.
I've always been a fan of those light blue scrubs. You know what I mean? Like the typical surgeon color or the light green scrubs.
I mean, I know what you're talking about, but no.
But I think that's what I'll wear all 3 days at World Series next year. Just scrubs.
Well, you'll probably get beat up. So,
yeah. I might get beat up anyways. Be back in the ambulance, man. No, man, but what a show, JT. Appreciate the update. And it's definitely been the talk of town. I mean, there's a lot of people talking about it. And I think for what it is that anything like this is going to be, there's going to be some optimism. There's going to be some pessimism. There's going to be some people that are kind of straddling the fence. But what there's going to be more so than anything else is a whole lot of waiting and seeing. And I think that what they're tasked with at this point in time is what I say all the time. How many times have you heard me say? It's kind of a 3-year deal with events. You've got to provide proof of concept in year 1. In year 2, you've got to demonstrate consistency. And in year 3, you can really start to cook with gas, really start to cook with gas. So it's a process. And I know that patience is not something that everybody has a lot of, but it's a virtue.
I think in all fairness for these racers, they've been very patient up to now. I mean, I'm sure people have paid their dues and whatever else, and maybe waiting to make their plans to see what's going to come out of all this, and they just haven't gotten a whole lot up to this point. And now we do have somewhat of a plan, but we don't really have a plan because we don't have a rule book. We don't really know exactly what all this means at this point.
And the elephant in the room is that I think the first race, July 9th through 12th, Columbus, Ohio, that's what, 10, 11 weeks from now?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we started working on the Winter Series March 9th, the Monday after the World Series ended. And that's what it takes. I mean, I was trying to get LED screens bought from some dude overseas and trying to, all these things that you're starting to put into place. We've been working on rules and monitoring the performance across all these various Pro Mod series since the start of the season. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We actually do. Write that down. You got to start early, but I mean, it really is. I mean, I know Nate would echo that sentiment. Nate Prater that we just had on, who's created, one of the biggest, small tire streetcar type events in the country in 3-4 short years. But it takes a round the clock, year long type of effort and a lot of planning. And yeah, I mean, I think the whole racing community right now is waiting and seeing. And I think that, like I said, I'm an optimistic guy by nature. I've had people tell me I've got rose-colored glasses on. That's fine. And I wish them nothing but the best. I hope it all works out perfectly. But I'm going to wait and see with the rest of the folks. I think that there's a lot of proving that has to be done. And it doesn't help that the IHRA, has gone through multiple ownership changes and there's some baggage there that is, it's tough. It's really, really, really tough to overcome some of that stuff. I mean, we've seen Kenny Nolling try to do it with the ADRL. We've seen it's a very difficult thing. People have,
one thing
people hold grudges, man.
Since we've gotten in drag racing is that it's hard to bring back a sanctioning body once it's been down a couple times. I mean, like we've seen it over and over. And I'm not sure that, have we ever seen anything that's worked?
What it really is, in my opinion, would be, I think drag racers, all of us are guilty of this. Drag racing fans and drag racers, competitors themselves, we tend to want to chase the ghosts of drag racing past, right? And everything, I mean, there are moments in time, like we even have to recognize that I feel tremendous pressure to not rinse and repeat, but to perpetually one up ourselves. Like, how do we make the winter series better in 25 and 26 than it was in 24 and 25? And it's a challenge, right? And you've got to save, Khan is saying here in the comments, glory days. Brett Kepner calls it glory day-itis. Everybody wants to go back to the glory days, but they fail to remember that we were driving to the races in trucks that didn't have air conditioning, right? We were hauling our stuff there on open trailers. You know what I mean? And
show with the gas.
Exactly. I mean, I don't want to go back to the glory days. I think we're living in the glory days. And I think that we spend a lot of time, I've never seen a sport that is so wrapped up in nostalgia. You know what I mean? Like a sport that spends so much time looking backwards, like to me, it's one thing to celebrate the traditions that exist in your sport. And it's one thing to celebrate heroes from yesteryear, right? And that's obviously part of it. I mean, those are promotional tools. Those are great things to do, but you can't be blinded by it either. You can't just be constantly chasing what used to be, because times change, and times have changed a lot in the last 20 years. And I mean, if you think about it hard, you've got to be to have known the IHRA in its glory days. You need to be about 60. You know what I mean? Like, I bet Nate Prater, I don't want to put words in it, but I doubt he ever has been to an IHRA race.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that the fact that most people don't realize they're living in the glory days, or don't realize how good we actually have it, because they never lived through the bad times, including myself, really. I mean, I lived in a time when we didn't have all this shit. We didn't have internet. We didn't have cell phones. I'm that old. But, most of us haven't lived through like the Depression and shit like that, where it was the bad days. So now we don't realize that we're actually living in the glory days.
1000%, man. And I mean, I think it's fair to look back with, fond memories, right? We all have fond memories. I have some of the best times I ever had drag racing were in the early days of the ADRL. But I also recognize that deal ran its course in many regards, and times have changed, and we're on to the next thing. And I recognize that almost every product has a life cycle. I mean, if you think about it, I think within the next 20 years, we won't be having phones in our hands. I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, if you look at what Meta's doing with the Meta glasses, I mean, we're not far removed from wearable tech. I mean, already look, my wife lives on her iWatch or whatever the fuck, or Apple Watch, right? I mean, like that thing is like the central nervous system of her existence. Most of the time she doesn't even have her phone on her. She's trying to talk to people on her wrist or whatever, or try to respond to text, and I mean, Jim Parks is here in the comments. Jim is a guy that I respect immensely, who's been around the sport for a long time. He says here in the comments, I've never been to an IHRA race, and I've probably attended over 300 events in 44 years of life. And I mean, and that's the thing. If you start, if your target market is IHRA fans from yesteryear, you're targeting people that are 60 plus years old. Well, that's not the answer. But I mean, I think we all know that's not the answer, right? So, what's going to, I heard a lot of commentary about like, well, Mountain Motor Pro Stock was born in the IHRA. Fact. Pro Mod was born in the IHRA. Fact. These are indisputable facts, right? But again, times have changed, and, somewhere along the way, they let go of that lease, so to speak, when they stopped having Mountain Motor Pro Stock. They stopped having Pro Mod. And I don't know if that that rabbit, can be put back in the hat, so to speak. I think that I would have wanted to try to forge a new path or do something decidedly different to reinvent the brand. because you really are catering to a group of racers and fans that are advanced and aged, that are not a market that is, attractive to sponsors, in my opinion. So there's a lot of factors to consider when it comes to all this stuff. And like I said, I wish him nothing but the best.
From our demographics, it really looks like that our biggest audience is from 28 to 59, which I know that's broad, but I mean, that's the peak is kind of in the middle there. I mean, just pulling up the.
Yeah, our metrics. I mean, we fancy ourselves very racer centric.
Like, mid 40s right now is kind of booming, actually, for our metrics for all of our channels and stuff.
Well, and the thing I like about that demographic is that some people that are starting to get, their kids are starting to grow up. They're starting to have some disposable income. They're probably advancing in their career, so they're making a little bit more money. And those are a group of people that are very, very valuable to sponsors. Right. I mean, we're making a hard push here at Drag Illustrated to start working with non-endemic brands. Like we're so blessed to have the Redline oils and the Stroud safeties and the Strange Engineerings and the Jegses and the Summits and all of these brands that have kept drag racing, alive for the last 75 years. Right. But I know that if we're ever going to go to that proverbial next level that gets talked about all the time, right? It's going to take some Fortune 500 companies from outside the motorsport space. It's going to take some big box brands, some brands that you see on shelves at gas stations, or some brands that you see on shelves at Walmart. I mean, that's what it's going to take to really elevate our sport. And yeah, it's an interesting thing, man. But again, I think that my closing commentary is that I definitely think drag racing, when the IHRA served as this kind of, it was like the anti-NHRA. The events were shorter. They were more racer friendly. And I don't think they did everything right necessarily, and I admittedly didn't live through, I wasn't involved in a lot of the quote unquote glory days of the IHRA. It was before my time. When we launched Drag Illustrated, IHRA was kind of in a precarious position. We actually put Scooter Pico and Aaron Polburn, the leadership of the IHRA, on the cover of the magazine way back when. I can't even remember when it was. I mean, it would have been in like maybe 07, 08 that we put them on the cover of the magazine. And they had some stuff happening. Things I felt like were as positive as they'd been in a long time. But they served as this option for racers. And we see people like Clay Milliken, who would go to an IHRA race and be a dominating force, right? Then he'd go to an NHRA race and struggle to qualify, right? And now granted, he's grown over time, and now he is a world-class competitor. And I'd say he has as good a chance on a Sunday at a national NHRA national event as anybody on the property. But that took time. But it also I think that it was a valuable service that the IHRA provided, because a guy could go race against good competition and race at a high level and prepare himself for that jump to the NHRA. And they were kind of like this yin and yang that existed. That was very positive for the sport. I mean, if you remember, at one point in time, it was the Winston IHRA Drag Racing Series and the Winston NHRA Drag Racing Series. They even shared a sponsor, if you think about it. I mean, that would be unheard of, right, in this day and age, for a brand to be like associated with competing properties technically. But that was kind of the lay of the land back then. But I fast forward to 2025, and there's a lot of great racing going on. I mean, I feel like the PDRA has made progress in terms of drawing fans. I mean, I saw it firsthand at Galat. They had a very solid crowd for their season opener. And I think that will continue. I think there's so much energy and enthusiasm around pro mod racing right now that I think if you're putting on a pro mod race, you're going to get some attention. But I do think, Keith Haney would happily join this conversation and acknowledge the fact, and I told him this a couple of years ago, that it takes way more than big numbers at the top of a flyer. Putting on these events, if it was just about the money, we'd see a lot more people do it and do it successfully, right? That's just the truth, right? And those big purses are very difficult to sustain. And I'm the type of guy that I don't ever want to go backwards. Like, trust me, I've had all these thoughts about, we need to pay $250,000 to win World Series and all this stuff. But it's like, I don't ever want to have to go backwards. So every time we've made a jump, I've wanted it to be responsible. I want to make a responsible jump that I feel we can maintain for the long term, because I don't want to be here for a year. I want to be here for 100 years. Like, I want to be turning over Drag Illustrated to my kids or whomever else at some point in the future. And I want to see these things continue on and have a lasting impact on the sport that I love with every ounce of my being. And, you know, you got to think about those type of things, right? And it's, you know, if you have, like, what if you have a rain out, or if you have a poor turnout or whatever, do you immediately backpedal and go, okay, well, we can't pay this anymore, we're going to pay 20 or whatever? And how is that interpreted by the masses? It definitely doesn't, you know, build confidence, right? So it's a very interesting thing. And I know that but I also know that, like, the group, the people that are involved, they know they've got an uphill battle ahead of them. They definitely know that they have an uphill battle ahead of them, and I wish them nothing but the best.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Well, what a show, dude. Appreciate it. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody that tuned in and supports this program and everything that we do at Drag Illustrated, man. It means the world to us, and we're so blessed to get to do what we do and do it with such awesome people, man. I love the commentary. I love chatting with everybody, even Con when he calls me a prick, man. I appreciate it a bunch. And I look forward to seeing you at the drag races soon. A huge shout out to all of our sponsors that support this program. And yeah, we'll see you next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. Shout out to Aaron Wells and, of course, Nate Prater for joining us today. Yeah, you can come see.
There you
go. All right. Thanks, JT.